We have a quorum and we are now live on YouTube. So we're ready to get started whenever you are.
Okay, y'all ready? Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this executive committee meeting. Today is April 30th. Oh, can we play like this never happened? Okay, so, okay. Uh, Okay, good afternoon, yeah, everyone. It's 2:39 in this April 3rd, 2024 meeting of the executive committee for the Louisiana DD Council is coming to order. Ebony, will you please take roll?
Yes, ma'am. Miss Christy Gonzalez, Miss Jill Hano,
Here.
Miss Brooke Stewart,
Present.
Miss Renata Washington, Miss Angela Harmon.
Present.
Okay, you have three and you have a quorum, Jill.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ebony. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind you all of a few rules for attendees. Please wait to be called on, recognized by the chair before speaking. Committee members will be allowed to make comments first, and then I can recognize any public comment. Also, to help this meeting run smoothly, please keep side conversation to a minimum in comments related to the topic at hand. Also, comments about a person's character will not be allowed. So, the first item of our agenda is to approve our last meeting summary, which everyone should have a copy of a November 29th meeting summary in their packet. So, I give received via email. If there are no objections, we can approve this by unanimous consent. So, any objections? Hearing no objections, the November meeting summary is passed by unanimous consent. Okay, so on to the next business item of business. Of course, the main reason we have our meeting this afternoon is to consider our virtual, our new set of protocols for conducting virtual meetings as LDH just passed the final rule on the virtual meetings in line with ADA requirements. So, Ebony, would you like to get us started?
Yes, I sure would. As Jill said, LDH finally released their rule in the March Register or the March Louisiana Register, and it is attached to the agenda. So if anybody would like to view the rule, hopefully our committee members have already looked at the rule. But if any members of the public want to view the rule, it is attached to the agenda. It's the second item. So based on the rules that LDH released, the staff and I came up with a draft protocol for the council meeting, the committee and council meetings moving forward. And we're here just to discuss those protocols. So if you look at the top part, and I'll pull it up. While we're going through it, if you guys see any corrections or any changes that you want to make, we can make those as well. So let me stop sharing and then I'll share again, just in case you guys want to make changes. I'll be able to make them in real time. Okay, so you guys should be able to see my screen. I'll just enlarge it to make it a little bigger. Okay, so according to the actual law, Act 393, it has in the law on page 5, any public body that is strictly advisory or that primarily focuses on issues dealing with disabilities or assisting military families may conduct successive meetings via electronic means without limitation and shall, to the extent practical, publish a schedule of its meetings indicating which upcoming meetings will be conducted via electronic means and which will be conducted only in person. So if you look at the top part of the draft that we created, we put some language in there that's similar to the language in the law. So given that the Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council, or the council, primarily focuses on issues dealing with disabilities, there is no limitation as to the number of successive meetings via electronic means that may be conducted. Therefore, all council meetings shall be accessible via Zoom and live streamed on YouTube. All meetings shall be recorded, maintained, and available for at least 2 years on the council's YouTube channel. And that is part of the law as well, that the meetings be recorded and maintained for at least 2 years. I think we have meetings that are older than 2 years on our YouTube channel. We haven't deleted any, but we will be following that part of the law as well. So I just want to start off by saying all of our meetings they'll be accessible via Zoom. So that means that they'll be accessible to not only our council members, but also members of the public via Zoom and live streamed on YouTube. So there won't be a need for members of the public to request accommodations, because our meetings will all be accessible via Zoom. So we'll make sure that the information is included on our agendas and our meeting notices when we send those out as well. Does anybody have any questions about that particular portion of the protocol? Okay, great. Okay, so if we move to the second part. Oh, sorry. Hit the wrong button. Council member participation via teleconference or video conference. So this is specifically for council members only. We haven't gotten to members of the public yet. So in order for and we pulled this straight out of the bill and out of the rule that LDH published in the register in March. So quorum for council and our committee members who participate via Zoom shall be considered present and count towards quorum when they display a live feed video of their face with their first and last name. So all members of the council, whether participating from the anchor location or via electronic means, shall be counted for the purposes of establishing a quorum. So that particular rule, we just want to make sure that anybody that's counted towards the quorum, just for transparency purposes, if you're participating via electronic means, that we can see you and that your name is displayed on the screen. Another rule was have microphones muted unless called upon by the chairperson. Electronically raise your hand to request the chair recognize them to speak. Once recognized to speak by the chair, their microphone shall be turned on, and after speaking, the microphone shall be returned to mute. And you guys will have that capability to do that. Committee or council members shall notify staff if they experience any technical problems. Now, this portion it gets a little technical because we have to recess the meeting just in case committee or council members are having issues with accessing the meeting electronically. So if a member experiences technical problems, the presiding officer will recess the meeting until the member is able to reconnect or resolve the technical problem. And so these can't be changed. This is part of the rule that LDH put out. And I think it is also a part of the Act 393 as well. If a committee or council member, when they're experiencing those technical problems, causes the quorum to be lost, then no further action shall be taken and the meeting will be recessed until the member is able to rejoin the meeting. So I had a suggestion right here to combine these next two. So I'm going to combine that because that's saying if a quorum is lost because of technical issues. So if the member is unable to rejoin after 1 hour of the time connectivity was lost, the meeting shall be adjourned. So after 15 minutes, after 1 hour, if that person is unable to get back on because of connectivity issues and the quorum is lost, then we can't continue the meeting and it'll have to be adjourned. If the quorum is not lost because of someone that is participating or a committee or council member participating virtually because of the technical problems, the presiding officer shall recess the meeting for at least 15 minutes to give the member participating via Zoom time to reconnect. And if after that 15 minutes, the member is not able to reconnect, the meeting may continue only if a quorum is present. So if we have a quorum in person, or if we have a quorum with the members that are in person, plus the members that are not having connectivity issues via Zoom, we can resume the meeting after that 15-minute time period that you all recessed. And then the last portion of the quorum protocol would be if the anchor site or the anchor location experiences technical problems that cause a loss of quorum, the presiding officers shall recess the meeting. And if the technical problem cannot be resolved within 1 hour, the meeting shall be adjourned. So do you guys have any questions about that portion?
Who will be, is the staff is gonna let us know?
Yes, Brooke, the staff will make sure that we keep track of the quorums throughout the meeting, to make sure that you guys are in compliance. And if we lose a quorum, we'll make sure that we notify the chairs. So
Okay.
this is going to be particularly important for our chairs. I know Christy and Renata aren't here, but Brooke, like for the self-determination and community inclusion committees, and any other committee, I know the chairs aren't here, but this particular portion is going to be very important. And yes, staff will make sure that we are monitoring Zoom and monitoring the actual room itself to make sure you guys have a quorum. Do you have anything to add, Hannah? Okay. Does anybody else have any questions about this particular portion?
No, ma'am.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for turning on your camera, Angela. I noticed that you turned it on after I read that first part. Okay, so we'll go down to the voting portion of the protocols. So voting, and this is for council and committee members, again, who participate via Zoom shall be allowed to participate and vote when they display a live feed of their face with their first and last name. Note, all members of the council, whether participating from the anchor location or via electronic means, may vote. And as I was sitting here reading that, I just remembered another thing that we have to include in this portion because it's in the law. For votes, from here on out, we can't vote by unanimous consent. We will have to have a roll call vote for every vote that you all take. And that is actually in the laws. It states that any person that's participating via electronic means has to have their name displayed and their face displayed when they're voting. And we'll have to call a roll call vote for each vote. So I'm going to add that right now. How should I? We can fix the wording. Okay, so do you guys have any questions about the voting portion? Nope. Okay. All right, so we'll move down to the public participation via teleconference, video conference. So this portion says members of the public may participate via Zoom or observe meetings live on the council's YouTube. Again, we will not require the public to submit accommodation requests. We're just going to allow them to get the link, register for the meetings. And this is how we did it during COVID as well. Members of the public were just allowed to register for the meeting and attend. So it was a hybrid meeting. And it'll be the same. So we're required to still have our anchor location and our presiding officer must be present. So I wanted to make sure that I stated that for all of our chairs, for our committees, and of course, the chair of our council, you have to be present in person. So I am trying to get clarification from LDH currently on that. Just because there is language in the actual law itself that allows individuals with disabilities to participate virtually. And I'm not sure why that doesn't include presiding officers. So I am in contact with LDH Legal. And so I've even been in contact with our state ADA coordinator to get her opinion on that particular portion of the law. So I'm still waiting to hear back from LDH Legal, but as of right now, they are telling me that presiding officers have to preside in person. Does anybody have any questions about that part? No. Okay. So just going back to the public participation, at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. And if you guys think that that should be greater than 24 hours, just let me know and we can change that. I want to make sure I get y'all's opinion on that. Oh, Jill, I see your hand.
What does open meetings law require?
They were-
24 hours?
Yes, 24 hours prior to the meeting. But I mean, if you guys want to make it a little,
No, no, I am about paperwork. I think that's a little rushed, but I'm the minority in that. So I'm in the minority, but I mean if everyone is okay with 24 hours, I mean, do I can I debate?
yes. I don't know if you remember in that training that Nicole did for you guys, Jill, but if the committee or if the ad hoc committee is less than 12 members, the chair is allowed to debate, vote, and everything.
Okay, because and now I have no train of thought. But I would do 20 more than 24 hours, but also you've got to remember the staff isn't there to like it took me years to learn in this, but the staff isn't there to make notes available on the website. So I didn't know if that was something y'all wanted to discuss, but like, of course, it can't be any less than 24 hours. But
Right.
again, remember, so on a Tuesday, remember that the staff is putting 4 or 5 or 6 agendas up at once. So that's just my opinion, but I mean, we can't do any less than what open meetings law requires. So, but if y'all want to do more, that is at the discretion of this committee today.
Right. So I think when we were discussing this as we were drafting this protocol for you all, one of the staff members thought it should be 48 hours. So we should at least put our meeting notices, our agendas, detailed information regarding how members of the public may participate and submit written comments at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. I'm sorry, at least 48 hours prior to the meeting.
I also think that there's and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a difference between notice and agendas too. Again, whatever y'all decide, y'all can discuss, and we can keep it at the 24 or change it to 48 or whatever's beyond 48. So any opinions on, are we talking about this part, or do you want to continue reading, Ebony?
No, y'all can talk about this part, and you do have a hand that's raised.
Okay. And let me see if I can I take public comment now, or do we discuss this, or is it at my discretion?
It's at your discretion, but Angela is part of the committee, and usually the committee members are allowed to speak before public comment. So if you want to take Angela's comment first and then the public comment, you can do that.
So, Miss Kathy, a committee member does have her hand raised, and Robert dictates committee members are allowed to speak before public comment. So, Angela Harmon, you are recognized by the chair.
Thank you, Jill. I just had a quick question, and I'm reading it. It says at least 24 hours. So do we have to really specify, say, if it's 40, if somebody wants to send something in prior to 24 hours, it's not that we're going to negate it, right? It's just that they have up until that time. We can't go less than 24 hours. Am I understanding correctly, guys?
Yeah,
Right.
you're understanding that correctly. And Angela, I'll just say as staff, it is our goal to make sure that we can post notices and agendas as soon as possible. So, yeah, you're right. As in, we have to do it at least 24 hours, but it's our goal to do it way before then.
Right. That was kind of what I was getting at, is the only call for discussion and detail was if y'all wanted to make it more than 24 hours because like 24 hours is of course the minimum. Okay, Brooke, you have a question, yes?
Yes, so Jill, you were bringing up the fact that you think 24 hours may just be too much on the staff. Like that's not enough time for the staff.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people know this. I'm very weird about notes. So I don't wanna say I feel like because I'm weird about that I don't wanna say either way. But yeah, I was just thinking that that was something to consider, but then Ebony was saying that the staff actually prefers to get out early because I only can say because I've been on self-determination committee the longest, but I know that Brendan gets his out like ASAP. So it's again not to be repetitive, but if y'all wanna make it more, we can. Does that answer your question, Brooke?
Yes, thank you.
Angela, thumbs up, thumbs down. Miss Dwyer, can I call public comment, Eb?
Yes, yes.
Miss Dwyer, you have the floor.
Thank you, Jill. I think there's several different issues that need to be decided on individually. Posting meeting notices and detailed information about how to participate in the meeting, that's one thing. And that right now, the draft says is 24 hours. I think that should be more. I would say at least 72 hours, because then you want to give people time for the last item under that section to submit written comments regarding the agenda. If they just get to see the agenda 24 hours before, that doesn't give the public a whole lot of time to submit comments, or anyone for that matter. So I would say at least 72 hours. I think you know, the council is here to serve the community. So you want to make this community friendly. When I was chair of the SAC, I tried to get all our agenda and minutes out a week or two ahead of time, just so that everyone had time to review them and so forth, because we know everybody's lives are pretty busy and occupied with, you know, caring for themselves or their loved ones. Then the second one, public comment, that one I think needs to remain the same as in the draft, because you definitely want the public to be able to submit comment. I don't think that one needs more time. If you make it more time, then that's more restrictive. You can't be more restrictive than state law. And I think that's all I had comments about.
Thank you so much, Miss Kathy. Okay, so no, Ebony, I need help, sorry.
So it's up to, I mean, you guys can discuss it more if you want to make it higher, you want to go 48, 72, that's for the committee to discuss.
Is 72 3 days?
Yes.
Okay. I was thinking, I don't know, do either of, yeah, okay, Brooke, I saw your comment first, and I'm actually interested in your opinion. Okay, Miss Kathy, we are talking about the notice. Hold on. Brooke, I do especially want your input as a chair. You are.
I would like to put it at 72 hours prior to the meeting.
Ms. Harmon, hold on 1 second. Ms. Harmon, I think I need a verbal confirmation.
Yes, I was getting ready to speak. I wasn't sure if you had recognized me. Thanks, Jill. Yes, I agree with Brooke. That's why I put my hand up. I do think 72 hours would help serve the public a little bit better. Like you said, to get the information disseminated out earlier would be easier for everyone. Thank you.
Okay, so Ebony, can I put this in? Can one of you put this in motion form?
Yes, so I just changed it on the version that's up on the screen right now. It's the Word version, so I'm just changing it as you guys make changes.
Okay, well, cool.
Yeah, and then you can make a motion at the end to accept all of the protocols.
Okay, then moving on, Ebony, can you continue?
Yes, ma'am, I can. So I just want to go back at least 72 hours prior to the meeting. The council shall post the following on the website: the meeting notice and agenda, and detailed information regarding how members of the public may participate in the meeting via electronic means, including the applicable video conference link and/or teleconference phone number. And within that 72 hours, submit written comments regarding matters on the agenda prior to the meeting. So everybody's in agreement. Okay. So we can move to the last portion, which will be public comment.
I do have a question.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jewel.
No, because I never quite understood how that worked. Like, how can you prepare for, like, I never know what I'm gonna say just by looking in at the agenda. So how, like, how does that work to submit it pre-meeting?
That would be, Jill, I believe that would be if someone's unable to attend the meeting, but they see an agenda item, they have something they'd like to share, then they could submit it that way, since they won't be able to attend the upcoming meeting.
Yeah, and I think like if you look at the agenda items, and I'll just take y'all's last the executive committee agenda from the January meeting. I know you guys weren't able to meet, but the bylaws. So there was an agenda item about the bylaws. So if a person is looking at that agenda and they're seeing that the executive committee is going to be discussing the bylaws, if they have any comments that they want to make sure that the executive committee receives before you guys discuss that agenda item, they can formulate whatever comment they want and then write that out and make sure that you guys get it before you discuss that item. So, I mean, it will be the same for like committees at the legislature. So whenever you're looking at a committee agenda for the legislature and you see a bill is coming up and you want to make sure, I can't make that meeting, but I want to make sure that my public comment is taken into consideration on that particular agenda item, you just write your public comment based off that agenda.
Okay, thank you so much, Ebony. Okay, so you can continue.
Okay, so we'll go down to that last portion about public comment. Prior to the meeting, written public comments may be submitted until 12 p.m. noon the day prior to the meeting. A public comment form will be made available on the meeting notice and agenda. So just to kind of elaborate on this particular part, the written public comments that we were receiving prior were through chat, email, YouTube, and a lot of times the YouTube comments were delayed. So by the time we received those comments, the committee had basically went on to maybe another topic. Another issue was the chat. So a lot of times in the Zoom chat, there are comments that may be made, and the committee has discussed the item for like 10 minutes, but the comment that was made was pertaining to something that was discussed at minute number 3. So a lot of the times the chat itself was delayed as well. And a lot of times the chat is members just going back and forth with each other, sharing information, and it may not even be relevant to the conversation that the committee or the council is having. So we thought this would be a better way to receive written public comment, will be prior to the meeting. And since we're going to have to post our agendas and meeting notices at least 72 hours in advance, members of the public should have an opportunity to view the agenda. And if they want to submit any written public comments, they'll have to do it by 12 the day prior. And that's to give the staff time to make sure that we're able to print those public comments, to make sure that the committee or the full council gets those comments before the meeting. And if we have committee or council members that are attending virtually, that we're able to email that information out as well. So that was the, I guess, the thinking behind that particular protocol, and just trying to make sure that we have a public comment form that will be on the meeting notice and the agenda as well. So it'll be a link, and the person can click the link either on the meeting notice or the agenda, and it'll take them to a form, an electronic form on the council's website. They type in their name, the meeting that they're trying to make the public comment on. What else was included, Hannah?
Yeah, the meeting and then what their public comment.
And what their public comment was. So once they submit that form, it will go to council staff, and we will make sure that members of either whatever committee it is or the full council receives that comment at least 72 hours before the meeting. Does anybody have any questions on the committee? Or Jill, do you have any questions about that particular part?
No, ma'am.
Well, you have, Miss Dwyer has her hand raised.
Okay. Committee, thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, Ms. Dwyer, you have the floor.
Thank you, Jill. I understand making these recommendations. I guess my only question is, you're still going to allow the chat to be used, yes? Hello?
Okay, so according to this protocol, the chat would not be used. The
Okay, then
chat,
and I understand what you're saying, but that in itself would be an ADA violation. There are people with disabilities who need the chat. For instance, someone who is deaf and cannot speak. They can type. They can read your captions, but they can only comment by typing.
So yes.
So if they raise their hand, they can't speak. So you need to allow that chat as an ADA accommodation. I think you can say ahead of time, part of the meeting, what do you call it when you go through housekeeping? I think you can say that you request anyone that wants to speak or comment that is able to raise their hand. Anyone who needs to use the chat as an ADA accommodation, use the chat. If you wanted to cut back on the chatter in the chat, that's what I would suggest doing.
So we did take that into consideration when we were suggesting or making the draft. And if someone needed that accommodation, we still have in our public meeting notices and on the agendas, if someone requires an accommodation, they are to let Bridget Talley know at least 3 days, business days in advance. So if that was an accommodation that was needed, they would be able to request that accommodation. Because if you go to the next portion, during the meeting, public comment will be taken before all votes and during designated times on the agenda. At the discretion of the chair, public comment may also be heard when applicable. Any member of the public make a comment by electronically raising their hand to request a comment. And then similar to our council and committee members, they'll be recognized by the chair. Their microphone will be turned on by staff. And then after they speak, their microphone will be returned to mute. So if a member of the public did require that accommodation where they needed the chat, we would grant that accommodation.
Miss Kathy, do you want to rebut?
Yes, I do.
Sorry,
I still think that's not accommodating a person, who may need the chat. I mean, unless you're going to have to put specific instructions in all your notices with examples that if you need the chat to communicate, you need to let us know as an accommodation. I think you're going to miss people that might need to use that. I think a general housekeeping rule up front would be better. If they need to make a comment in the chat, as an ADA accommodation, you can still expect them to raise their hand and then they can, type what they need to type in the chat. But the DD Council should be setting the example, okay, to make things as accommodating as possible for the community. I think having them to request ahead of time something that is already available is a bit much. I understand requesting ahead of time if you need a sign language interpreter because you need to contract with them and make those arrangements. But the chat is already there. It's not like it's something you have to make arrangements for. I think that was better more under housekeeping as to what you expect people to do. And you can, as people learn what the rules are, you may have to remind them, please do not have private and personal discussions in the chat. It's solely for ADA accommodations. Raise your hand if you want to speak, and I think everybody will learn, after a couple of meetings. Otherwise, I think you'd be setting a poor example.
I like that. And I mean, I don't know, but if we crack down on the for ADA purposes only, then I mean, like, I'm not opposed to that, but the chat gets severely out of hand. But from an ADA in a setting example standpoint, I guess that too. Angela, you're recognized by the chair.
Thanks, Jill. And in light of that, I think that's correct that we need to leave the chat open. I understand that sometimes we get a lot of clutter and a lot of chatter, but there are people that's going to need to utilize that. And if I think about people that I know that are disabled, they do benefit from being able to access the chat as opposed to sending a form or a card or submitting something prior to the meeting. So I think as well, I don't know if we could vote, whatever, that we should remain having the chat open. Thank you.
And I mean, I don't know. I also think is that we would have to put parameters on that because I really do see the ADA benefits, but also, I mean, like, it can't be abused either because the chat was way too much clutter. So I do like that idea, but does anyone else have any thoughts? Okay. So, Ebony or Hannah, do y'all have any thoughts about that?
I do have one alternative thought, Jill, because I totally agree with you that there's pros and cons. One thought, because of like you said, the chat does get very congested with questions and back and forth and even just small things like I agree. And then 15 minutes later, we don't know what that person agrees to. But one thought could be the Q&A, and that would differentiate an actual public comment versus the random discussion and, hey, what page are we on? The Q&A could be an alternative that you click on the Q&A, you type in your public comment and submit it, and then it's read aloud whenever the chair asks for public comment. So just a thought.
Uh, I don't know enough because I've never understood the difference between the chat and the Q&A. So because of that, I don't think I understand what you're saying.
So can we,
We can do a test.
yeah, I can type something in the Q&A.
Okay. So Ebony's gonna type something into the Q&A. And you're able to see how it comes up. It just basically shows up in a different manner. The chat is where, people are, as you can see with the chat right now.
I don't think I can do it. It's showing me this exact same
Oh, because
thing.
we're hosting it.
Yeah,
probably.
because we're hosting.
We're hosting the meeting. We're not allowed to ask a question. But at the bottom where you see next to the chat button, there's a Q&A button. And as opposed to back and forth discussion, oh, there you go, Kathy Dwyer. So it pops up, it should pop up for all the council members, the question,
So
and then
what does it do if someone clicks answer live?
it, just like this, if you were gonna answer that question live, it just lets Miss Kathy know that you're gonna read that aloud.
Oh, I kind of like that because then you know what chat needs to be
addressed.
When in does it have Miss Kathy test it again? Does it have a time stamp?
Yes.
That's
Here's the answered questions. And so at the end, you'd be able to have a list of all the public comment that was read and answered with a timestamp.
Like that.
that. So, and I hate to prolong the meeting, but so are there are there pros and cons to this? Because I really do want the ADA thing and like when you said it was, it's setting, to set an example really resonates with me, but at the same time, like, are we just gonna be in the same position?
I think the Q&A is a little different, Jill, because since we're able to say if a question is going to be answered live, we also have the option to just answer the question. So if it's something as simple as what page are you on, or what are you guys discussing on the agenda at this moment, staff can answer that question right away. And it doesn't have to be answered live. Or let's say a member of the public is having technical issues, staff can address those issues as well. So I think that is one of the pros, is that if people are just having just random questions that they need answered, the staff can answer those right away. But if it's something that does need to be addressed by the actual committee, based on what you all are discussing at that moment, then we're able to say, well, that question will be answered live, and we can go back and make sure that the committee gets the comment or the question.
Okay, alright. Okay,
So how we communicate that to the public
so,
by knowing what is for, what the chat for, what the.
Renata has a question. You want to say it loud for?
yes.
I just asked, how will we be, how are we gonna, tell the public, just tell them what the chat is for, tell them what the Q&A is for, so that it won't get, I guess, mixed up, or so they can have a clear understanding of what they're using the chat for and what they are using the Q&A for.
Well, can I answer my thoughts, or was that for staff?
You can answer your thoughts, Jill.
Because I thought that that's what we're doing, is making some new protocols for this kind of second, for lack of a better term, second phase of Zoom usage. And I think that the protocols, or there's a link on every agenda set for this one. I thought there was a link to say review council hybrid like review Zoom protocols, and then like maybe since we are thinking about redoing a website, there could be maybe like a button to like that like writes down our protocols. I don't know, that's just off the top of my head.
So can I help you, Jill?
Please do.
So whenever we were in COVID times and the council was meeting virtually, on the top of every agenda, we included the protocol, but you can also, whenever you start the meeting, as chairs of those meetings, you all can go through the protocol to make sure that the public knows how they can use the chat. If you guys keep the chat feature, how they can use the Q&A, and what the difference between the two would be.
Okay.
And after we're done with this draft and you guys vote on it, the plan is to send it out to the full council, of course, but also to the public, so that they are aware of what the protocols are going to be for this upcoming April council meeting.
So when all is said and done, and we agree on these protocols and public comment in the full council, can we put like maybe an effective date on it?
So yeah, I mean, at the top, Jill, we can put established and effective if you'd like.
Okay,
Because I mean, to me, after you guys have all agreed, I think that it will be effective after today.
okay,
And we really need it to be because the council meetings are coming up.
okay, that's true. Alright, so, okay, cool. Thanks. Alright, so. Everyone happy, Smiley.
Well, before we get happy, I just wanna let you guys make a decision about the chat and the Q&A. Are we keeping both? Are we only doing the Q&A? Like, what's the decision of the committee?
Angela, you recognize by the chair.
That's a toughie, but I feel like I like to have options and having both. I know it may be hard to pinpoint everything that we're trying to do and while we're in the meeting, that means someone has to man all these things, but I just feel like if we're gonna take something away, I'm not sure if that's the best thing to do right now. So I'm not sure. That's my opinion. I would hate to negate one thing, and some people don't understand the Q&A part, even though you put the rules and stuff. Sometimes it just depends on your concept or your processes that you can understand what someone is saying. So if they're accustomed to being able to use the chat and to do the things they want to do because they participated before, I would hate to take that away from someone that's accustomed to utilizing the meeting that way. That's just my thought. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Harmon. So, something that you said, could we maybe try both for for this coming meeting and then make aware that our intentions are to phase it out.
Phase out which one?
The chat and just keep the Q&A.
So your suggestion is to allow the chat for the April meeting? I think we would have to put a deadline on it if we did it that way, Jill. So if we were gonna allow it for the April meeting, I guess when would be the time that you would phase it out?
Oh,
And I mean, everybody, y'all chime in. I don't want to be the only one asking questions.
I don't want to go against. I don't. Oh, I don't want to I'm sorry. I want to find a solution that everyone that will make everyone happy, and that's like always my goal in life, or especially in these meetings, I think I want to be known as the happy medium person, but this is nerve-wracking. Brooke, you're awfully quiet. Are you good?
I think she might have had to step
She-
away
she
for
ran-
just a second.
Okay.
But Angela has her hand raised and I thought Ms. Dwyer did, but I think she put it down.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then Angela, you have the floor.
Thank you. And I understand it's more the best decision overall for every. And so I guess my next question, Ebony, because I don't know the protocol, if we were to go ahead and keep both of them, like Jill said, keep them both open. So, and then you can say like effective October, we're going to disengage the chat. I don't know, is that still being restrictive? Is that still not being accommodating? So that's my only question. I mean, I feel like for April, yes, I'm going to vote to keep both. But until everybody gets accustomed to the new protocol, but what does that look like if we decide to switch it up in October? Is that a violation? I really don't understand that part of it.
Well, so
Thank you.
that is a good point, but okay, continue, Angela.
I was pretty much done. I was just kind of wondering if we kept, like I said, if we kept both until for the April meeting, and say when we have our next quarterly meeting, you make the notice of being, say at April meeting, we say, okay, come effective October, whatever, we're going to discontinue the chat. So is that a problem? Is that a violation? Is that being too restrictive? I don't know what other people are. I really don't know that part of the law. This is what I'm asking. Because we don't want to
Right.
discriminate. Like you said, we're supposed to be the DD Council, providing people with every opportunity that they can to fully participate in everything that we do. So if we start nixing certain things, I don't want it to come back on us as not being engaging or involving everyone. Does that make sense, y'all? I don't know.
That makes sense.
Yes, ma'am.
Jill, can I say something?
Please, and then Miss Kathy, I will get to you. But please, let me know what's in your head, Ebony.
Okay, so Angela, just to kind of answer your question, if you all would be in violation of any rules. So the rule right now is very, very, very simple. There's only two things written for public comment, and it says if you go to the page 396 of the rule that LDH released, for public comment, it says written public comments may be submitted electronically, either prior to the meeting or during any meeting via electronic means. Oral public comments may be made by members of the public during the meeting. Those are the only two rules that they gave us for public comment. We were just trying to provide a little bit more structure with the public comment, just because in the past, when we were doing things hybrid, like we've said, the chat was a little overwhelming. Sometimes we would, whenever the chair was recognizing the chat, it would be stuff that had been said for things that y'all might have discussed like three hours prior. And I'm exaggerating, but I'm just using that as an
No.
example.
I was there, during the origins of COVID, and I don't think you are exaggerating.
Another thing is, so this is brand new again for us. We haven't had a hybrid meeting in approximately a year, because last year we had to stop in April when we were told by LDH we couldn't have we couldn't conduct those hybrid meetings. So this is something new for everybody at this is going to be new for everybody at this April meeting. So we're establishing the rules now. So whenever you say people are accustomed to, and they may be accustomed to it for other platforms or other commissions or boards where they are able to use the chat, but then we're doing something different. So I just wanted to address that. There's only two things. We were just trying to make sure it was structured in a way that it is taken so that you guys can make sure that you are taking everybody's comments into consideration in like a timely and orderly manner, if that makes sense. We weren't trying to restrict anybody, or we weren't trying to make it harder or anything else. We were just trying to make sure that the council is able to have structure and conduct the meetings in like a timely manner, because sometimes the chat was getting us off time. You guys were having longer meetings. We weren't able to get to certain things sometimes. So I think that was sort of the thought process whenever we were coming up with this draft.
So, y'all, just point of order, which is just putting it out there. It is 3:54 and like in the agenda says 4:00 and but I mean, and we are kind of nearing the end, because I feel like this is a brief discussion. So like, Ebony, do we have a hard 4:00 stop, or can we finish this?
No, you can finish it, Jewel. Honestly, I think that was a mistake on my part on the agenda. It should have said 4:30. That's how long we set the Zoom for, and I think that's how long we had it on the website.
Okay, cool. My chairperson notes does say 4:30, so okay, we're caught up. So we have another public hand raised, not seeing any council members. Renata, you're still good because you're very be 40 Wednesday and you're very small on my camera, so you're still good.
I'm thinking, Gio, if I do have something that I want to say though. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
I'm sorry I suck at this. I'll learn to get better.
You're good, Gio. Okay, after listening to everything and considering what Ebony just stated in regards to this will be something that's new for everyone. And so I do understand that people do not always like change, but since it has been quite some time, and we are trying to establish protocol and things, I know that the chat can be chaotic. I see it all the time in meetings. And so if this is something that's going to make us a little bit more structured, I do think that we could give what's written here about public comment a try. Since it is something new, I did hear what Angela stated, and I do see the concerns in that too. But since this is something, I mean, COVID was how long ago that was like 4 years ago. So I think everyone's mind should be a little fresh, and, willing to, that was kind of like in the past. So if we're moving forward, I do now, since I'm looking at this, I do think that this is something that we could, and I know that we're not going to be able to please everyone, but I do see that it could be something that would be a little bit more structured. And I think that we'll be able to, probably receive a little bit more. You don't want to miss anybody either when you're doing the chat. So I do think that this is something that we could just make with with changes with the chat, and just give it a try. However, when it is sent out to the public, it has to be clear. It has to be, concise. It has to be all of that just to relay what we're trying to do. And it has to be something that is going to be consistent and that we all, feel comfortable and agree with. And I think that what Ebony stated in regards to we're not trying to take away from anybody, we're still accommodating. I think we need to stress that too. It's still accommodating everybody. It is just going to be structured a little different. So I do think that the changes for public comment is probably needed because I know that it can definitely be chaotic. So I do think that, if the council agree, I think it's worth giving it a try. And maybe if at all, like for instance, let's just say they submitted their comments prior to. If it's something that they think about during the meeting, maybe the Q&A could be a little, where if they forgot something or they thought about something, maybe they can just submit it there. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't want to just, give so much because then it can turn chaotic once again, if that makes sense. What do you guys think?
Angela?
Okay, hey everybody again. I agree. I'm not in disagreeing with what you guys are saying, but I'm saying as far as I was just saying we gotta be mindful of everyone. That's all I was saying. So if we're gonna do this and if we can do it, are you gonna try and enforce this in April? Or are you gonna just try to ease people into it? That was the only caveat I was bringing to the table. I agree because, I've been on all those meetings where the chat is just lit up and it's crazy and it's chaotic, and especially when Mr. Rashad was there. So I'm not saying we can't move forward. Yeah, we need to move forward. We need to be progressive about a whole lot of things with the DD Council. So therefore, I'm okay with going forward. I just didn't know how we would implement that. Are we just gonna go out stalls April? You disconnect the chat piece, or we're gonna say, hey, this is what we're doing in April, become effective, blah blah blah. Like I said, next quarterly meeting, we're not doing that. That's the point I was really trying to make. I wasn't against the change in piece because it gets to be a lot and entertaining sometimes, but it's a lot. Thank you.
Angela, I didn't think you were against it or anything. I'm just, giving my opinion. I didn't think you were against it. I got what you were saying. I'm just stating that I am, whatever you stated, I definitely understand that concern too. It's just so many different things to consider with this, to be honest with you. And with you saying that, I do know what's today, April, what? 3rd. I do think that it is kind of sudden to make these changes for the April meeting. I think that, it should probably be the next one possibly, because it could, either way, we're still gonna be something said behind it. But I do think that it may be too sudden, maybe, especially when you're trying to implement change. You have to do like a little, trial run with some things. And I think that, when you're implementing change, and that's anywhere, you want to give people time to process that too. So the meeting is in what, 2 weeks? So I do definitely agree with that, Angela, for sure. That may be too soon for people to you know,
Right. I think implementing that now would not. Miss Kathy, I see you. I promise I just talk so much. I think disabling it for the April meeting is almost out of the question, and I do think that my big point that I wanna drive home is that that we just need it to be noticed. Oh, that's a good thing. We need to be noticed, just like to have people, we need to discuss when it's timing, and I'm very big on phasing it out, like have like, okay, it's April, we're doing the chat. Ebony, are you trying to get my attention?
No, I'm sorry. My my battery's low, so I'm trying to get Hannah to pull up the document for you guys. Sorry.
Okay, and I just think it's important. I can't hear in Jill. And so I just think that we need to let people know, like, we're having the chat now, but it will be disabled, and whether we want to do it in July or in October, but we need to give people the heads up now that that it will be phased out. Like, come on, y'all are moms, y'all know what weaning is. Okay, so Miss Dwyer, you have the floor.
Thank you, Jill.
Okay.
I think everybody's pretty much saying the same thing, and I think this can be solved so easily. Pick either chat or Q&A. After hearing your discussions, I think the Q&A would be better. Apparently, council members get the notice and they can kind of control the questions and answers and so forth. At the first meeting, maybe let both be enabled, but you have your script that you always read at the beginning of the meeting for housekeeping. Add to that script about the purpose of the chat, let's say for the April meeting, and the purpose of the Q&A, and that the chat will be disabled after the April meeting, but the Q&A will always be available for public comment and for especially for people with disabilities who cannot speak. You can set your rules in your housekeeping saying, we ask that everyone to save the Q&A for just those who need it as an ADA accommodation. Or unless somebody, let's say their mic is not working, they can say, my mic's not working, so I'm asking the question here, And as long as you do that in your housekeeping, there shouldn't be any problem. I guess I'm not seeing the concern as long as we make sure we're in compliance with ADA, and ADA supersedes state law. So if to me, you have to have one or the other, chat or Q&A. You have to have a means that a person who cannot speak is able to type in their question. And you can, simply say that in advance. Here are our new rules, along with the new virtual meeting rules, and we ask that everybody please comply. You're going to have a few people come in late or whatever that may forget. That's okay. Just do a reminder during a break of what those tools are supposed to be used for, and anyone that wants to comment, raise their hand. Personal conversations in the chat are not allowed. It's just that simple. You're just setting up the rules and just have to enforce them. Because it's not really the chat that was causing the problem. It's the people who were using the chat. It would be same as if they were in person having side conversations. Side conversations are asked to be kept to a minimum. Same thing with chat. Chat is just another tool. It's instead of your mouth, it's the keyboard. So I think it can be simply solved by sticking that in your housekeeping rules, in your meeting notices, explaining about the new rules, and just, give it a couple meetings. Everybody will understand what has to be done.
Thank you, Ms. Kathy.
So Jill, if you look at the screen, I just added something in the protocol. If you guys just want to keep it in the housekeeping rules, I can take it out of this protocol. If you want to keep it here, I can. I was just putting it in here just so you all could see it.
I think it should be in the protocol. That way it's in black and white forever. Or whatever. I don't know.
I agree with what's reading.
I'm sorry, Renana. Can you repeat that?
I just stated I agree with what she wrote.
Okay. Yeah, I do too. I agree with that as well. I think it looks good. Other members, yay, nay, ready for supper, ready for bed, ready for tea, family reunion. I didn't say that, you said that. So
I agree with it.
okay, Brooke, looks good.
She might have had to step away for a second, Jill.
All right, so now, okay. So do I need, okay. So I agree with that as well. Okay. So Ebony, now what do I do?
Okay, so now, if you guys are all in agreement, I think the only changes that you all made was, here where we added the at least 72 hours prior and the information at the end about the Q&A and the, chat features. But if you all are in agreement with this protocol, we can have a motion to accept this as the council's protocol for conducting virtual meetings. If you want to accept the motion at this point, Jill.
I did, before I get on to that, I did have a question about public comment, but of course, like right now, I'm kind of shaky on at 393 and then what LDH says, but so I don't know if, Miss Karen, can you get my drink? Is there a Powerade right there? Oh, please, like I'm dying. Thank you. I don't know what the rules are, but can we? And I don't even know if this is possible, but can we maybe set a limit, like 7 public comments per agenda item, or is that not in compliance with the law?
So the law, again, only says that you have to take public comment before a vote. The council has to take public comment before a vote, and it has to be designated time on the agenda. You all have decided to select your designated time at the end of the meeting. But again, we have in the protocol that
So
members
we're
of the
not,
public are allowed to submit public comment prior to the meeting written. But there is nowhere that says that you have to take public comment other than those times, other than before a vote and before at a designated time on the agenda. So this is why we included the information that in the protocol right here. Let me try to move over a little bit. I think it's more up here. During the meeting, public comment will be taken before all votes and during the designated times on the agenda. At the discretion of the chair, public comment may also be heard when applicable. So it doesn't have to be taken any other time than before all votes and during the designated time on the agenda.
can we? That was an idea I had last night. I mean, I hate to sound limited. Okay, never mind. See, I wish it were the other way around, because especially with people with disabilities, like I don't know if I can say what I need to say in 3 minutes, because I don't talk as fast as you do. And now I read a comment in my head and answered it out loud. Sorry. Okay, so do y'all have any thoughts on that? Going once.
Well, Miss Kathy has her hand raised.
Oh, I'm
Ms. Dwyer has her
sorry.
hand raised, Jewel.
Miss Kathy. Ooh.
Jill, I just wanted to make sure you understood. If a person with a disability needs more time to speak, it's at the chair's discretion to allow more time to accommodate that disability. It's not written in stone, black and white, that it has to be 3 minutes. Just keep in mind, the DD Council is there to support people and the families with disabilities. Their voice is valuable. Their voice must be heard. If someone needs a little more time than, let's say, the 3 minutes, or let's say there's a lot of comments and you have to restrict public comments to 1 or 2 minutes. Still, when there's someone with a disability, the chair has the power to say, or not even have to say it, just to allow more time as an ADA accommodation. ADA is a federal law. It overrules state law. It overrules Robert's rules. So, you always want to make accommodations for people with disabilities so that they can participate.
I think Ms. Dwyer. Okay, now, so, and I hate to keep saying this, so, Ebony, I really need help getting from A to B.
So Jill, just to let you know, I took out the 3 minute, since Ms. Dwyer did mention that it could go down to 1 or 2 minutes. So I did change it to say the chair has the discretion to enforce a time limit to public comment. If the rule is enforced, the staff will keep track of the time by using a timer system. So I just took out like the actual minute itself, or the minutes.
Okay,
And at the chair's discretion, you can limit the public comment to however long you would like, if it's getting to be too long. I think at this point, if you guys are in agreement, then you can make a motion.
okay, so, all right, girls, are we ready for a motion? Cause, okay, so, have at it, ladies.
You have to roll call. Oh, so let's make a.
Yeah, we need a motion in a second.
Wait, did I do something wrong? That probably was hella unprofessional.
No, you didn't do anything wrong, Jill. I think Hannah was just asking if we did the roll call, but we can't do the roll call without the motion.
So, does someone want, hold on. Does someone want to make a motion to accept or not accept these new protocols? Brooke,
I would like the motion to accept these new protocols today.
okay. Brooke, Renata, because this is a rather long motion, will you please, after Ebony, after Ebony has typed it, will you please restate the motion? If that is okay with you and be like, is that cool if I get Renata to restate the motion?
Yes, that's fine with me, Jill.
Okay, wait, okay, so Brooke makes the motion and I need a second. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, seconded by Renata Washington to, okay, can you read the motion, Renata, please?
Yes, ma'am. The motion states, accept the teleconference, video conference protocols for conducting the Louisiana Developmental Disabilities Council virtual meetings made by Brooke Stewart, seconded by Renata Washington.
Okay, is there any discussion amongst the committee? Any public comment? Wait,
Miss-
I do public comment before objections?
Yeah, you do discussion and from the committee and then discussion from the public. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, Miss Kathy, public comment?
Thanks again, Jill. And sorry, this comment, I had my hand raised before y'all made the motion, but I guess you didn't see it. So I just wanted,
Sorry, I did not.
that's, I know, that's okay. I just wanted to add about the time limit. I believe Robert's Rules has 5 minutes for public comment. It is up to the chair's discretion. However, what I did and others do in committee meetings is we go ahead and set like a max time limit, let's say the 5 minutes, and put it on the agenda so that the public sees in advance there's only going to be that amount of time. And during the meeting, if the meeting is going, going too long or too short, then you can adjust it and say we either have more or less time for public comments. Okay, I just wanted to get that out there so you understood. It doesn't have to be in these protocols.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
So Jill, just to kind of answer Miss Kathy's comment. During the public comment on the agenda that's on all of y'all's agendas, even the one today, that public comment period is 5 minutes. So normally, if, like, let's say for full council meetings, if someone wanted to give a public comment during that time, they would fill out a card, and then that time period would be the 5 minutes. So for this particular public comment, it will be like the comments that are happening during the agenda discussions. And then the chair would have the discretion to limit that. You can put it at 5 minutes, you can put it at 1 minute. Taking the actual time out of it just allows the chair more flexibility.
Okay. All right, so motion, so any objections? Any abstentions? With that, the motion carries. Okay, so now we are on to public comment announcements. Any additional questions? Okay, now the only announcement I have is that the next council meeting will be held April 17th and 18th, which I believe is in 2 weeks from today. All council and committee meetings are hybrid with both virtual and in-person options to attend. Now that the protocols have been adopted, council staff will provide registration links and protocols for accepting public comment. So does anyone on the does anyone on the committee have any announcement or questions? Hearing none, if there are no objections, we can adjourn this meeting by unanimous. Wait, we can adjourn the meeting by unanimous consent. Any objections? Okay, well, I will see y'all on Wednesday. So with that said, I hereby adjourn the meeting precisely on time at 4:30 p.m. Thank y'all so much. Have a